Hello and welcome back to our breaking live coverage. To be honest, we are still trying to lower our heart rates in the booth because what we just witnessed has fundamentally shifted the tectonic plates of professional tennis this evening. If you are just joining the stream and scanning the updates coming out of Doha, you would be forgiven for thinking there is a serious malfunction in the on-screen graphics or a major typo in the breaking news feed. You might be looking at the attendance figures, the noise levels, and the absolute chaos at the ticket office for the Qatar Open, wondering if the organizers pulled a fast one and secretly rescheduled the championship final to a week early. But let us set the record straight immediately. There was no trophy on the line tonight, and this was definitely not a high-stakes semi-final showdown. We were not even watching a heavyweight clash between the established superstars, sitting comfortably in the top 5 of the WTA rankings. What actually went down at the Khalifa International Tennis and Squash Complex was on paper a standard round of 64 fixture, the type of opening match that usually serves as background noise on a sleepy low-energy Monday afternoon. However, the city of Doha found itself hosting something far more significant and larger than a regulation tennis match today. It transformed into ground zero for a legitimate cultural event. The bold headlines are not hype, and the shockwaves from this evening are currently rattling the very infrastructure of the sporting world. Alexandra Eala, the 20-year-old sensation from the Philippines, hasn't just touched down in Qatar. She has walked in and completely hijacked the main stage. We are broadcasting live from a venue that is absolutely bursting at the seams with every single ticket officially sold out. Let me say that again, just so the reality of this sinks in. We witnessed a maximum capacity crowd for a first-round contest. In the long and prestigious history of the Qatar Total Energies Open, a tournament that regularly hosts Grand Slam legends, it is virtually unheard of to see this level of fan mania and density. Seeing this intensity of engagement and passion so early in the tournament bracket is simply unprecedented in modern tennis. Usually the stands only start to fill up as the stakes get higher later in the week, but today the rulebook was completely shredded and tossed aside. Every seat was claimed well before the first serve, and outside the gates, queues of desperate fans wrapped around the complex for what looked like miles. Looking into the stands, it was a literal sea of red, blue, yellow, and white. The national colors of the Philippines flooded the streets of Doha in a massive show of pride that transcends sports, a phenomenon officials are officially calling the Eala effect. Honestly, though, labeling it a mere effect feels like a drastic understatement considering the scenes we just watched unfold on the court. We heard whispers about this possibility earlier in the week, specifically when tour veteran Tereza Valentova pointed out that Eala was quickly becoming box office dynamite. Saville noted that if she were a tournament director, she would move mountains just to make sure Eala's name was on the draw sheet. Tonight proved her absolute genius because the vibe in the arena wasn't just supportive, it was electric, pulsating, and positively deafening. It carried the raw intensity of a Davis Cup final or a FIFA World Cup knockout game. Certainly not a standard Monday at a WTA 1000 event. However, we have to make sure the circus doesn't overshadow the sport because this narrative has two very different angles. While the crowd provided the atmosphere, the athlete absolutely earned the bold font on the front page. Alexandra Eala, now ranked number 45 in the world and climbing, walked onto that purple court, carrying the hopes of a nation and the heavy burden of a statistical curse. She was matched up against Tereza Valentova from the Czech Republic. To the average fan, that is just another opponent, but for the diehards, that name triggers the dread of the infamous Czech jinx. Before tonight, every time Alex Eala played a Czech opponent on tour, she walked away with a loss. It was becoming a mental block, a weird trend where the robotic, powerful Czech style acted like kryptonite to Eala's lefty flair. She had actually suffered at the hands of Valentova before this matchup. That includes a tough straight sets defeat in Japan just last year in 2025. The experts knew the stats and the betting odds reflected that history. Talk about pressure. Try having 7,000 screaming fans demanding a win while you face the one person who knows exactly how to beat you. That is the absolute cauldron of stress Alex Eala stepped into today. And the result? It is exactly why we love this game, because Eala didn't just play, she tore the script to pieces. She didn't let the noise distract her. She bottled that energy, turned it into a weapon, and fired it right at the history books. The big story isn't just the ticket sales, it is how the entire vibe of professional tennis shifted tonight. We are used to polite applause and silence, but tonight we got hit with a wall of noise. Every winner shook the cameras, and every saved break point sounded like a match-winning goal. You have to respect Valentova for playing through that hostile atmosphere, but make no mistake, this was Eala's house. She effectively turned the Khalifa complex into a home game at the Araneta Coliseum. She turned a singles match into a team sport, with thousands of overseas workers acting as her doubles partners in the stands, and this is huge. This matters because it shows a shift in the sports economy, especially as we see the male legends retire or slow down. Tennis is desperate for new icons who can actually sell tickets and generate buzz. We need players who can pack a stadium on a random Monday, and today Doha found the solution. It is not just about hitting a ball anymore, it is about creating a deep emotional connection with the fans. Alexandra Eala has that rare, indefinable magic, that X factor, that sparks an instant electric bond with a global community that is absolutely starving for genuine representation on the big stage. Grab your popcorn and settle in, because we are going to tear this match apart and analyze the microscopic technical shifts Eala made to finally smash the Czech curse that has been haunting her career for years. We are going to be running the numbers on this historic attendance record and figuring out exactly what this explosion of interest means for the future of the WTA Tour across the entire Middle East. Our coverage is going to take a deep dive into the overseas Filipino worker phenomenon to understand how this massive population is doing way more than just watching from the stands. They are single-handedly rewriting the financial playbook for major tournaments in this region, and of course, we need to dissect the tennis match itself point by point. We are talking about pure grit, high-level tactical genius, and the nerves of steel it took for a 20-year-old sensation to walk into a sold-out arena and deliver the performance of her life. The city of Doha is currently rocking with disbelief, and the energy on the ground is unlike anything we have seen in recent memory following that result. The entire WTA locker room is buzzing, and Alexandra Eala has officially put the tour on notice that she is done with just being a participant in the draw. She is here to take over. She has evolved into a legitimate headline act, so do not go anywhere, because we are diving straight into what is easily the most compelling sports narrative of the year. To truly appreciate the magnitude of what just went down on that court, we have to peel back the layers and realize this was not just a single win, it was a statement. We need to map out the brutal journey that led to Doha, the clash of playing styles, and the broader story of Eala's 2027 season, which is shaping up to be her superstar breakout. Let us kick things off by addressing the massive elephant in the room, the dreaded so-called Czech jinx that has been hanging over her head. To an outsider, it might sound like superstition, but in the pressure cooker of pro sports, these losing streaks can turn into concrete mental walls that are nearly impossible to break down. Walking onto the court, Alexandra Eala was carrying a heavy backpack, a winless 0-9 record against any player from the Czech Republic at the professional level. That stat line includes heartbreaking losses to top-tier talents like Marie Buzkova, Katerina Siniakova, and crucially, the woman staring her down from across the net today, Tereza Valentova. Rewind the tape to their last meeting at the Japan Women's Open in October of 2026, where Valentova absolutely dismantled Eala, taking the first set 6-1, followed by a 6-2 drubbing in the second. Let's be honest, that match was a massacre and was not even remotely competitive. Valentova is a power merchant with a huge serve and flat laser-like ground strokes, a style perfectly designed to rush a thoughtful player like Eala, who likes to use spin and angles. So, when the Qatar Open draw came out, you could practically hear the collective groan from tennis fans and analysts around the world thinking, oh no, not again. Here was Eala sitting at a career-high ranking of 45 and playing the best tennis of her life after a deep run in Abu Dhabi, looking ready to make a move. And destiny decides to pair her with the one specific archetype she cannot solve, setting up a nightmare rematch with the player who crushed her confidence just 4 months ago. But this is where the upgraded 2027 version of Alexandra Eala flips the script. We saw glimpses of this new attitude in Abu Dhabi against Ekaterina Alexandrova. Even though she lost that match, the aggression was there. She was not backing down, and the intent to dictate play was obvious to anyone watching. She had the courage to step inside the baseline and take the ball early, and today, against Valentova, Eala refused to sit back and wait for the Czech power hitter to miss. She literally snatched the racket out of her opponent's hands, and from the very first ball of the match, her tactical mindset was completely unrecognizable from their last meeting. Back in Japan, Eala was pushed 5 feet behind the baseline, defending for her life, but today, fueled by a deafening crowd, she planted her feet and held the line. She used the slick, fast courts of Doha to her advantage, abusing that wicked lefty slider serve out wide on the ad court to open up the court. It was a vintage tactic straight out of the Rafa Nadal playbook, stretch the opponent wide, and then hammer the forehand into the open space. She was not playing with a fear of losing. She was playing with a hunger to dominate, and that first set was an absolute masterclass in mental toughness. Valentova came out firing, breaking Eala's serve in the third game, a moment where the old version of Eala might have hit the panic button and folded. But we have to talk about the X factor in the stands. When Eala went down a break, the stadium did not get quiet, it got louder. The chants of "Let's go, Alex" grew into a roar, creating a wall of sound that refused to let her momentum die. This turned the arena into a pressure cooker for her opponent, and Valentova, who is still young herself, clearly started to crack under the heat. Valentova began to crumble on her service game, and Eala, smelling blood in the water, pounced immediately to break back with a spectacular down-the-line backhand winner that nearly blew the roof off. Securing that first set felt like an exorcism. You could actually see the physical weight of that losing streak evaporating from Eala's shoulders as she walked to the chair. Her celebrations got more intense, the fist pumps carried more fire, and her walk between points turned into a strut of pure, unshakable confidence. By the time they got deep into the second set, it wasn't just about forehands and backhands anymore. It was a street fight of pure will and determination. In that battle of grit, Eala had the massive advantage of 7,000 screaming fans pushing her forward, and that brings us to the biggest story of the tournament. You have to ask, how is Alex Eala selling out a massive stadium in Qatar on a random Monday afternoon? The answer lies in the demographics. The wider Middle East, especially the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia, is essentially a second home to a massive population of overseas Filipino workers. For decades, these resilient communities have been the backbone of the region's growth, powering the infrastructure, the hospitals, and the service sectors. But in the world of elite sports, this demographic has rarely had a global superstar from their own country to actually go and support in person. Boxing had the legend Manny Pacquiao, but he fought in Vegas or Macau. And while basketball is life for Filipinos, the NBA is a TV product, not a local reality. Professional tennis is unique because it is a traveling circus that brings the world's best athletes directly to these international hubs every single year. So whenever Alex steps on the court in Abu Dhabi, Dubai, or Doha, she is not the visitor. She instantly transforms into the undisputed hometown hero. We are currently watching the tectonic plates of professional tennis shift in real time, effectively shattering the old world order. For decades, the concept of home court advantage was a privilege limited to local heroes or transcendent icons like Federer and Nadal, who dissolved borders. However, the 19-year-old sensation Alex Eala is ripping up that script and writing her own manufacturing, a portable traveling fortress of support that follows her to every single time zone she enters. The warning signs were flashing bright red at the Australian Open in Melbourne, a city teeming with Filipino expats. We saw that fire grow in Abu Dhabi last week, and now here in Doha, the enthusiasm has exploded into an absolute inferno. Let us speak frankly about the business side of this sport because tournament directors are essentially CEOs. Their primary objectives are to move inventory, keep corporate sponsors happy, and ensure those expensive hospitality boxes are full. Historically, the early rounds of the WTA 1000 swing through the Middle East have faced a chronic issue, library-like silence, and rows of empty blue seats that look terrible on television. It is a nightmare for organizers to see top 10 talent fighting for points in a ghost town until the weekend rolls around. Alex Eala has emerged as the instant cure for that attendance crisis. She does not just attract casual viewers. She awakens a sleeping giant of a demographic passionate patriotic supporters who are loud, proud, and ready to spend their hard-earned money to back their star. When the news broke that the stadium hit maximum capacity the moment her name appeared on the schedule, it sent a shockwave straight through the sports administration and back to the WTA offices in Florida. The entire map of tennis fandom is being redrawn before our eyes. The sport can no longer obsess solely over the traditional markets of Western Europe or North America. The Southeast Asian diaspora is an economic titan, a massive market that has been overlooked for too long. If that market is a sleeping giant, Eala is the alarm clock ringing at maximum volume. The financial reality is impossible to ignore. If you are running the Qatar Open, your number one strategic priority is ensuring Eala is on your entry list every single February. You immediately slot her into the primetime window under the floodlights, guaranteeing you capture the massive television audience back in the Philippines while packing the venue locally. We are fast approaching a new era, where wild cards are distributed with far more commercial strategy, ensuring that players who move the needle like this are guaranteed a main draw berth. But here is the best part of the story. Eala didn't need a handout this week. She marched into Doha on the strength of her own ranking points, which makes her rise even more legitimate. She earns her place on the court with her racket, but she fills the arena with her unparalleled charisma. That is a deadly combination. Let us pivot back to the actual tennis for a minute, because overlooking the tactical brilliance she displayed today would be a crime against her performance. The match hinged on a critical moment deep in the second set, with the games tied at 4-all. It was crunch time, and Valentova held a commanding 40-15 lead on her serve. To anyone watching, it looked like a routine hold was incoming, but Eala suddenly produced 3 moments of absolute magic to turn the tide completely. First, she threw up a sky-high defensive lob that dropped right on the baseline, resetting the point and forcing Valentova into an unforced error. She followed that miracle, save with a crushing forehand return winner off a serve that was traveling at 180 kilometers per hour. It was pure instinct. Then on breakpoint, she won a grueling 15-shot marathon, running her opponent from the deuce court to the ad court until the Czech player finally collapsed and dumped a backhand into the net. Breaking serve to go up 5-4 was the metaphorical stake through the heart, giving Eala the opportunity to serve out the match on her own terms. The volume inside the stadium was absolutely ear-splitting. It is a wonder she could hear the ball toss, yet she held it love and finished the job with a clean ace out wide. The handshake at the net was respectful and professional, but the second it was over, the celebration was an explosion of raw, unfiltered joy. Eala pounded her chest, pointing to the flag, and then to the screaming fans, acknowledging that this was a shared victory between the gladiator and the crowd. They carried her when her energy dipped, and she repaid that faith by snapping a historic losing streak. This win is massive for her 2026 campaign. First, it defends the crucial points she needs to stay inside the top 50. Second, it books a date with the big names, likely setting up a clash with a top 20 seed. Most importantly, this victory shatters the mental barrier she has struggled with when facing the heavy-hitting, power-based Czech style of tennis. The logic is undeniable. If she can dismantle a power hitter like Valentova, she has the tools to take down giants like Krejcikova. It unlocks a new level of belief. However, we have to talk about the physical toll. Eala is running a marathon right now, having gone deep in Abu Dhabi just a few days ago. After reaching the doubles semifinals and singles quarterfinals, the fatigue is real. But winning is the best painkiller, and adrenaline is a powerful drug. The electricity from the fans today masked her exhaustion, but her recovery routine over the next 24 hours will determine if she survives the next round. Her team needs to build a wall around her now. Being the star attraction means heavy media demands and autograph hunters, which drains emotional energy. Frankly, keeping your feet on the ground after an emotional high like this is often more difficult than playing the match itself. Taking a step back to view the Qatar Open as a whole, the importance of this narrative cannot be overstated. After superstars like Sabalenka, Pegula, and Krejcikova withdrew, the tournament was on life support, desperate for a headline. They didn't just get a story, they got a movement. The Eala Mania phenomenon has single-handedly saved the energy of the opening week. Every major newspaper in Doha is splashing her face on the front page with photos of the riotous crowd dominating the sports sections. This creates a strange pressure for the rest of the field. Imagine being a top 5 player on court 1, with 200 spectators, while the world number 45 has 7,000 people going crazy on center court. It completely disrupts the established hierarchy and social order of the professional tour. It forces the establishment to pay attention. We heard Daria Savel's comments, but rest assured the entire locker room is whispering about this. Future opponents have to tell themselves, I need to be perfect, because I'm not just playing a girl across the net, I'm playing against a hostile stadium. The atmosphere brings back memories of when Maria Sharapova first arrived, or when Li Na brought the massive Chinese audience into the fold. But this is unique because of the diaspora factor. For Eala, home isn't a single city, it is everywhere her people are. Looking at the stats, one thing stands out. Her unforced error count plummeted compared to her season average. Usually pressure makes players crack, but she seems to get sharper when the lights are brightest. With her back against the wall and the pressure mounting, Eala stood tall without a hint of hesitation, showcasing a mental fortitude that has evolved dramatically. At just 20 years old, she is displaying the poise of a veteran and effectively operating in a stratosphere of her own. It is high time we discard the outdated narrative of the scrappy junior champion, struggling to adapt to the major leagues. We are witnessing a fully formed, battle-hardened professional who has traveled the grueling tour circuit for years and earned her stripes the hard way. She has absorbed the physical punishment, weathered the storm of gut-wrenching defeats, and learned exactly how to quiet the doubts in her head, turning today's masterclass on the court into a definitive graduation day for her. Mental toughness and competitive spirit. Unsurprisingly, the incredible spectacle of a stadium packed to the rafters is destined to dominate social media feeds and trending topics for the next 24 hours, representing a marketing dream scenario that money simply cannot buy. Yet for the tennis purists, analyzing every stroke, the true story emerging from this match is that Eala has solved the puzzle of neutralizing aggressive power hitters, a crucial tactical breakthrough that serves as her passport directly into the elite top 20 rankings. While her exquisite touch at the net and sprinter-like speed across the baseline have never been in question, the one question mark hanging over her game was whether she could hold the baseline and effectively counter the overwhelming pace generated by the tour's biggest strikers. Staring down the barrel of Valentova's relentless heavy ground strokes today, she delivered an answer that echoed across the complex. A definitive yes, forcing us to wonder just how the rest of the field will cope with this seismic evolution in her gameplay. We are only just beginning to peel back the layers of this year's Qatar Open, but it feels like we have already seen the defining highlight of the entire event, with the shockwaves of this match extending far beyond the simple digits displayed on the scoreboard. What we are seeing is an unprecedented level of emotional buy-in from the general public, a refreshing change for a sport that often struggles with a reputation for being overly exclusive and somewhat disconnected from the everyday sports enthusiast. However, looking at the scene today in Doha, the atmosphere was nothing short of electric and vibrantly alive, offering undeniable proof that Alexandra Eala is constructing a vital bridge that links the elite world of professional tennis straight to the passion of the common crowd. Should she manage to sustain this extraordinary degree of concentration and technical execution, we will move past marveling at full crowds for early rounds. She is destined to be the driving force that ensures a complete sellout for the championship match come Sunday. As we wrap up our live coverage of what has been a truly monumental day here in Doha, it is essential that we take a step back to contextualize this victory within the broader scope of her rapidly ascending career trajectory. It is an exceptionally rare occurrence in sports to see such a perfect convergence where elite athletic prowess, swelling, national pride, and significant economic influence collide with such spectacular intensity. If you look strictly at the official records, history will likely reduce Alexandra's opening campaign at the Qatar Open to a dry statistic, a standard straight sets win over Tereza Valentova. Yet for the thousands of fans screaming in the arena and the millions more watching intently from the Philippines and around the world, this moment will be immortalized as the definitive turning point when the Eala era truly went global. Within the sports media landscape, we are constantly on the hunt to pinpoint that specific instant when a rising prospect truly arrives on the big stage. While arguments could be made for her U.S. Open Junior title run or her first professional trophy lift, we have to be real with ourselves. The atmosphere and energy surrounding this victory feel fundamentally different. This victory signals her complete transformation from a promising young talent into a legitimate franchise superstar. After all, possessing the drawing power to fill a foreign arena to capacity on a quiet Monday afternoon means you have transcended the role of a mere athlete. You have become a genuine cultural icon and a significant market influencer. Though we must remain realistic and acknowledge that the road ahead through the Doha bracket is about to become significantly steeper and more perilous. The tournament draw offers her absolutely no respite moving forward, as the upcoming rounds are populated by formidable power hitters and past Grand Slam champions lying in wait, ready to strike at the first sign of weakness. She is set to clash with opponents who boast far more extensive resumes, greater raw physical power, and much higher world rankings. Yet I can assure you that not a single one of them currently holds the unique, electrifying spark that Eala is displaying right now. She is currently surfing a tidal wave of momentum, and as for that old superstition about her struggling against Czech opponents, that curse has been effectively shattered and buried deep beneath the hard courts here at the Khalifa International Complex. Her confidence levels are soaring into the stratosphere, and regarding this passionate crowd, you can bet your bottom dollar that their numbers and their volume are only going to increase from here. If you felt that the noise levels were deafening today, just try to visualize the absolute chaotic bedlam that will ensue if she manages to secure a spot in the quarterfinals or pushes through to the semifinals. We could genuinely be looking at a situation where tournament organizers are compelled to arrange overflow viewing areas just to accommodate the massive crowds. And looking beyond this week, the implications for the remainder of the 2026 season are absolutely massive. Following this, Eala is scheduled to fly directly to Dubai, which will be immediately followed by a trip to the United States for the prestigious Sunshine Double, competing at both Indian Wells and Miami. Make no mistake about it, these events are the true heavyweights of the tour, representing the grandest stages professional tennis has to offer outside of the 4 major Grand Slam championships. By proving she possesses the nerves of steel required to handle the intense spotlight of a WTA 1000 main draw. Here in Doha, she is effectively setting the stage for what could be a monstrous campaign across the United States. Every single ranking point she accumulates at this moment is vital for the mathematics of seeding. If she can battle her way into the top 32 before the clay courts of Roland Garros open up, she guarantees she avoids clashing with the highest-ranked contenders in the early rounds. From a strategic perspective, securing that seeded position is the ultimate prize she is currently chasing. But regarding the emotional aspect, her goal is simply to ride this wave of adrenaline as far as it can possibly take her. And we absolutely must take a moment to salute the phenomenal Filipino community residing here in Qatar. You were far more than mere spectators today. You were the essential co-stars of this blockbuster event, demonstrating to the entire world what genuine passion looks like, and turning a routine tennis match into a thunderous celebration of national pride. It served as a powerful and poignant reminder of the unique ability sports have to unite people, binding them together in spirit even when they are living thousands of miles away from their homeland. So, while the morning headlines might scream, "Whole Doha shocked," perhaps it is time we retire that surprise narrative and accept that we shouldn't be stunned anymore. Maybe we simply need to adjust to this exhilarating new normal. Alexandra Eala has proven herself to be a legitimate force of nature who is only just beginning to rev her engine, and the fact that the stadium hit maximum capacity for a simple first-round match tells you absolutely everything you need to know. Oh, without a doubt, and I would be willing to wager a significant amount that tickets for her next showdown are vanishing into thin air right as we speak. A massive thank you to everyone for tuning into this special deep dive analysis. It has been an absolute honor and privilege to break down one of the most thrilling days that recent Asian tennis history has ever witnessed. Make sure you stay locked right here because we will be returning shortly with comprehensive wall-to-wall coverage as Eala continues her remarkable conquest out here in the desert. Until then, keep your eyes fixed on the ball and do not blink. Otherwise, you might just miss the rising star from the east. Rewriting the history books, good night to you all from the studio.